Welcome to the Forex Freakap, guys. The 9th of July, and finally, Thursday the 9th of July, for the first time this week, we actually have a bit of conviction in the market, a move, bit of direction, finally. So what happened today? So title of this Freakap today is Risk Off Flows as Trump Forced to Hand Over Tax Records. Bit of a weird one. Let's talk about what happened. First of all, why don't we have a look at some of these charts, just so you know what I mean when I'm talking about risk off flows. As you can see in the last sort of 2 hours, especially in that hour from 3 p.m. London time, if you look in this top left hand chart, this is the S&P 500. Yeah, from about 2 p.m. London time, we started to sell off in stocks. Wasn't just stocks though. Look over at these two charts in the bottom right. Those are crude oil. That sold off. European equities, they're in the top right, they sold off. And if you look, bonds typically seen as a safe haven, so that's the US 10-year bond, that's the German Bund, which is their 10-year bond. They both started to pick up, so you start to see this build-up of risk-off flows. And you know what, it's a weird one because it seems as though this risk-off move has been caused by this story to do with Trump. So what happened? Well, let me read it to you. The US Supreme Court has basically ruled that US President Trump is not immune to subpoenas for his financial records. And that basically means that the president is finally, after all these years of people asking for his tax returns, he's finally going to have to hand over his tax returns, and he's going to have to give them to this grand jury who have subpoenaed him in New York. So basically what's going to happen is, I assume this is a developing story, but the world is finally going to see Donald Trump's tax returns. Why is this a risk-off thing? And I'm actually asking that because I'm not 100% sure why it's a risk-off thing. I mean, one of the things I was thinking is potentially if the world finally gets to see what's inside those tax returns, maybe it reveals that he's been tax avoiding. He hasn't been giving any money to charity despite being a billionaire. Maybe he's not even a billionaire, he's been lying all this time. And those things potentially could be seen as harming his chances in the election. Perhaps more sinisterly, you could say. Maybe, there's actually evidence of doing criminal activity in his tax records. Like not just avoiding tax, but like underpaying tax or something that he might get impeached for. And obviously impeachment, that's a lot of political uncertainty, and markets wouldn't like that. But to be honest, guys, I am just kind of speculating here because I'm not really sure why this news regarding Trump and his tax returns has triggered this reaction in the market. I actually think it's got more to do with the fact that up until this point this week, apart from we were seeing a bit of dollar weakness, so that was a decent move this week. Dollar was consistently weakening. But in stuff like stocks, in stuff like the crude oil market, bond market, and a lot of your risk FX, things had been just very, very range bound, very boring, to be honest, for the whole week. And it looks as though markets have almost jumped on this news as an excuse to just do something, which I know it sounds like a weird explanation, but I just can't really see what else it would be that would cause this kind of move. Just a bit of fatigue of doing nothing, perhaps. But anyway, let's spend a little bit of time looking at FX markets because we've got the equity, crude oil and bond chart up, but let's switch across to, where is it? That's not the one. This is the one. These are all my dollar majors, okay? So in the top left, as always, dollar index. So when you see risk off flows, typically what you see is strength in the dollar, and that is exactly what we saw in the last 2 hours. Look at that. Dollar index before these risk off flows was at about 96.30. Now we're at highs of the day. By the way, I'm recording this video at just after the European cash close, so that's 4:30 London time. Now we're in the 96.70s, okay? So to be honest, I'm just zooming out a little bit on this chart. If you look at us, well actually let's go on the daily. Blimey, that's zoomed in. If you look at us on the week, we're still quite a lot lower. That was Monday, that big red candle that I've got the mouse on. But we're off lows, okay? Dollar benefits from safe haven assets, from risk off flows, excuse me. Actually, I did this yesterday. I'll do it again today. Where is it? Here it is. This is always a nice way to visualize FX markets. Yeah, you can see dollar near the top of the G10 performance table, JPY, that's seen as another safe haven asset at the top, and the Swiss franc at the top of the near the top of the G10 performance table. GBP at the top of the G10 performance table. What's going on there? Because typically, guys, GBP is seen as a risk-sensitive asset, just like AUD, NZD, CAD. Not as much as them, but it is seen as risk-sensitive. So typically when you see risk-off moves like we just saw in the market, GBP would be suffering. And if we just look at the GBP chart, it's in the top right. My computer's freezing a little bit. Yes, it doesn't like it. But anyway, we are off highs, but we're still flat on the day versus the dollar. So why is that? What has been supporting GBP? Well, I'm sort of chalking it up to traders today and investors, and general GBP sentiment has been a bit backward looking today. We've had a bit of time to digest some of the news this week. So what did we have yesterday? It was basically the biggest news of the day. Rishi Sunak, the UK finance minister, he was unveiling all these new economic support measures. Also, earlier in the week, we had this story about the EU potentially offering the UK something called zonal attachments on fisheries, which has basically been a key request of the British. So this issue of fisheries, it looks like the EU are going to make a compromise, and you know, that could bring the two sides closer to a deal, which is good for GBP. So today it seems, just have another look at this GBP chart in the top right. We were just rising all day, and there wasn't really any new news to explain it. So I think it was because of those backward-looking factors. Looking at, actually, we had these good things happen in the week. Let's keep climbing. What else have we got to talk about? Well, to be honest, guys, most of these other... Oh, sorry, my charts are a bit messy and zoomed out. Let me set them all. But most of these other dollar majors, like, you know, or these other major currencies, AUD here, where the mouse is, CAD here, where the mouse is, NZD here. I've got them on 1 days, actually, excuse me. Oh, I messed. Yes, there you go. You can see all three. Remember, dollar CAD is dollar first and then CAD, which means lower is stronger for CAD. So dollar CAD at highs of the day, that implies CAD weakness. Aussie dollar at lows of the day, Kiwi dollar lows of the day as well. They're risk sensitive currencies, guys. So when you see risk off moves like we have, you see weakness in those currencies. CAD in particular though, just look back here, CAD's at the bottom. And also, unfortunately, this FinViz performance thing doesn't include NOK and SEK, which are also in the G10, but NOK's another underperformer. That's the Norwegian krone. Remember, you always got to remember, CAD and NOK have a high correlation with oil prices, and what we're seeing with oil, you can see it here, just where my mouse is now. Oil's getting crushed today, crushed. I'm not sure why, to be honest. There wasn't any news specifically for oil. It's just all part of markets wanting to move, I think, just wanting to break out in one direction, and then everybody's jumping on it. But that's been weighing on CAD. What else have we got to talk about? To be honest, guys, there's nothing that much exciting more to talk about. I mean, it's probably worth talking a bit about Euro. As you can see, just look at this. Excuse me, I'm clicking all over the place. This is the Euro dollar chart. This is where my mouse is. It's been behaving mostly as a function of the Dixie. So let's just zoom them both out. They just look like an opposite of each other pretty much. So yeah, you could say today Euro trading as a function of the dollar. But there are some important things going on in the background for Euro. Basically today you've got the Eurogroup meetings. That is literally when all the finance ministers from all the EU27 get together and discuss whatever they have to discuss. At the moment, the important thing that they're talking about is this EU recovery fund, and they're going to be setting the groundwork ahead of next Friday's meeting of the actual EU27 leaders themselves. So all the big names like Merkel, Macron, all the actual leaders of the countries. And that meeting next Friday is where the big decisions will be made. But obviously, if we do get some signs of progress today in these negotiations, that should be Euro positive, but all has been quiet on that front for now. And this is just something interesting, guys. Usually this doesn't happen, but where was it? Another EU leaders summit could take place later on in July if members states cannot agree a deal next Friday. That doesn't usually happen. You usually only have one per month. So that kind of implies to me that they are very keen on getting a deal. They're even going to set up a whole new meeting. Because remember, these are world leaders, guys. They don't really have the time to be doing meetings with each other every 2 weeks. Like, they got to run their own countries. But yeah, that does show will to get a deal, which is good. But like I say, Euro today, not really trading off of that theme. What else is there to talk about? That's pretty much it, to be honest, guys. Actually, there is one last thing I just want to talk about. Just want to talk a bit about gold. We all love gold. Gold was making some decent moves earlier on in the week. Where is my gold chart? Ah, yeah, of course, it's with my FX. Here it is. Let me get rid of this news that's in the way. Yeah, so look at this. Risk off flows and gold fell. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what? Isn't gold a safe haven? And the answer is yes, it is. But judging by today's price action and recent price action, the most important consideration for gold, that I think anyway at the moment, is its negative correlation with the dollar. So when you see dollar strength, that's usually bad for gold. So that's a weird one. It's how can you be negatively correlated with the dollar, which is a safe haven, but then also a safe haven? It is a weird kind of concept to wrap your head around, but it's almost like intraday, if the dollar gets really strong, that will hurt gold a bit. But if, you know, there is massive risk off in the market, gold, there'll always be a floor under gold. And then, you know, when things start to pare back a bit, you get a bit more risk on to recover some of those losses, then you might see gold gaining again. It's a weird asset, gold. I mean, we're going to be talking about it a lot over the coming months, so hopefully you guys will kind of get to know it a little bit better, and I'll try and unpack it more. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it from me for now. Slightly longer video today. I'll try not to keep them too super long. I hope you're enjoying these videos. Any comments, questions, anything, just leave them below. That's pretty much it from me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.